It's time once again for another episode of the Buckhead Business Show. Being brought to you by the Buckhead Business Association. Broadcasting live from the Pro Business Channel studios in Atlanta. And now, here's your host for today's episode.
All right, you're getting a three-fer here today. So we have three folks joining us in the studio, co-hosting this special spotlight episode of the Buckhead Business Show, being brought to you by the Buckhead Business Association. If you're not familiar with the group, you can go to buckheadbusiness.org and attend some events, kind of rub some shoulders, make some connections, and check out all their activities and events going on. I'm Rich Casanova. I'll be wearing the hat of producer-engineer for the most part, and I want to welcome back to the Pro Business Channel studios Joanne Hayes with Simply Buckhead. I haven't seen you in a while in the studio. I've seen you at events and Taste of Buckhead, all that good stuff. Yeah,
I know. It's been a busy year.
Right? So we're going to do a spotlight episode as your new additions hit the street, so to speak, and kind of what's happening, what's on the forefront, and current trends and topics happening in Buckhead. So we're going to talk at the end of the show, but if you would just take a minute to talk about Simply Buckhead for those folks that are not familiar with it and how you're helping the community here.
Sure thing. We've been publishing for 6 years. We're about to have a great big giant anniversary party again.
Woohoo!
And
we're going to top the last one? At the airport hangars? That was amazing.
I think this one's going to be really special. It's going to be at ADAC, and we have legendary events staging the scene for us. It'll be beautiful. We hosted one at ADAC a few years ago, and it was lovely. So we generally see about 500 to 600 guests, which is amazing. I think this one might be a little bit bigger, but we've had a spectacular year. In addition to publishing Simply Buckhead, we launched our second magazine earlier this year.
Yeah.
Yep, called 17th South, and we're publishing in the Midtown Market and all of the surrounding neighborhoods. It's doing incredibly well, and I think 2017 will be a great start for us. It always takes a little bit of time when you're brand new, but we're very, very excited about the service that we provide to the Buckhead community. We've had terrific response over the 6 years we've been publishing. A lot about lifestyle, philanthropy, events, activities, family, homes, dining out, beverages. It's been a great, great fun adventure for me.
The what's what and who's who of Buckhead, yeah.
Absolutely.
Beyond, yeah.
We are the go-to source.
There you go, yeah. I'm rewriting her slogan. She's like, hold on a second. Yeah. And so they can find out all that information, get their VIP tickets to the event. I mean, you think about 500 to 600 people, and this is like a very classy,
yes.
affair, right?
Yes.
And from whence you came. Right?
Yes.
I mean, so we'll talk about that at the end of the show.
Yep,
but if
terrific.
you would, so all that can be found. Imagine it. I'm guessing Simply Buckhead.
Simplybuckhead.com. Yep. And we publish the entire magazine online, as well as 24,000 copies available in about 285 locations in the Buckhead and Brookhaven and Sandy Springs market. We're proud to say that we have over 50% market share in Buckhead, which no one else in Atlanta can claim.
And it's also, you can find it online, 4,000 countries around the world?
4,000, yeah. There's not quite that many, but I believe we've been seen in most of the countries around the world.
Yeah.
Every state in our country for sure.
All right. So, and having said that, let's go ahead and kick off this episode of the Buckhead Business Show. And if you would introduce your guest that you've personally invited to join you in the studios.
Yes, sure thing. Well, I'm very excited that John Schaffner from Buckhead View is with us today. This is sort of his farewell to Buckhead. We'll be speaking with him about his long career here in Atlanta as a journalist and in the PR world, and very excited to have him on board and honored that he was able to join us today as he retires, or says he's retiring, but I know he'll still be working. He'll never retire. So welcome, John, today. We also have Brenda Fannin, the owner of Carré d'Artiste Atlanta. See, how's my French?
Wow,
pretty good?
That's amazing. Yeah,
I studied it for a long time. And Brenda is the new owner of this beautiful gallery in Phipps Plaza. It's great to have you here. I'm excited for you to share with our audience about your journey to get to this place. Michael Moore, as you know, is in the studio with us today. Welcome, Michael. And we also have Cameron Turner from the Atlanta Community Food Bank, and she's the Director of Institutional Giving. Welcome this morning, Cameron.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you on board. We're going to start with you because there's a lot going on with the Atlanta Community Food Bank this year, and I have to say we're very proud that we are sponsoring you this year. I don't believe any other publications have done any sort of year-round sponsorship, and which surprised me, but I'm so glad that we were able to offer that to you and that we're a part of what you guys are doing now. And, I know that there's been some really great messaging being put out there. We just had a fabulous event. So why don't you start by talking about Tangerine Tango, where it was, how much it raised, why you do this every year.
Yeah. Well, it is such a pleasure to partner with Simply Buckhead throughout the year, and you guys are so generous to the Atlanta Community Food Bank and what we're trying to do throughout our community. But specifically, Tangerine Tango happened. It happens every September in honor of Hunger Action and Awareness Month, and it's a national cause where over 200 food banks across the nation really in September shine the light on hunger in each of their communities. And so Tangerine Tango was a wonderful fashion show presented by Bloomingdale's and sponsored by Simply Buckhead and the Mandarin Oriental Hotel and Spa. And we had over 100 guests there that evening, and it was a fashion show just to show the new fall line that Bloomingdale is presenting. But it also
a lot of BCBG that night.
A lot of BCBG. But it was a great event that just brought awareness to what hunger really looks like in our community. And we were really excited. It was our biggest year yet. And with you guys' help, we raised over $16,000 that evening.
That's fabulous. I actually saw Kyle Wade, the CEO of the Atlanta Community Food Bank, out on the basketball court last night at the Hawks game. So there was a community service day last Friday. And he was out there on the court with some of the team's personnel. Well, before we go on to the next question, because I do want to say a little bit about Cameron's role at the food bank. She has many, many years of leadership and fundraising experience, and she oversees the corporate and foundation relations with special events and is responsible for raising over $8.4 million in funding each year to address the needs of the hungry and homeless across North Georgia. And before the food bank, she was the director of foundation and corporate relations for the Atlanta Mission and a development officer for the Devereaux, Georgia Treatment Network. So she has many, many years of experience in this field. And these events are a large portion of where the money is raised for the food bank. So they're very, very important. And it was really fun to be at the Tangerine Tango Fashion Show. And segueing into the next event, which is coming up, I'm very excited about this one. So let's talk about the Legends of Atlanta Roast.
Yeah, the Legends of Atlanta Roast is a wonderful exclusive event that we hold every other year. And it really highlights chefs in the community that are doing great work, and they support the food bank. But it's also a fun night where their colleagues and their friends come and roast them, and then all the proceeds go back to the Atlanta Community Food Bank.
So who are the chefs this year?
So this year we have Chef Ford Fry, we have Chef Kevin Gillespie, and Chef Linton Hopkins.
Take note, people. 2 of those chefs have outposts in Buckhead.
Yes.
So this is where our readership and our listeners who are in the Buckhead market should be buying those tickets and supporting the community food bank. So where can these tickets be purchased?
So the tickets can be purchased online at roastatlanta.org. They are $500 a piece. This year we have moved the location to Flourish, Tony Conway's
great location,
wonderful event location. But what that's doing is allowing us to have a bigger audience this year, and so
we've much bigger audience,
much bigger. And so in the past, we've only been able to hold up to 250 at the food bank, and Tony allowed us to use his facility, and we're going to have close to 400. And so we're selling out quickly. We only have about 140 tickets left.
Wow!
And we're still a month away. So I would encourage people to go get their tickets quickly because it's gonna be a sold out event.
Well, I think it's going to be a fantastic event. We can't wait to see how much money is raised at that particular event as well. Why don't you explain to our audience how the food bank works, how the organization gets food into the community?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the Atlanta Community Food Bank services an area, 29 counties across North Georgia. And we work with over 700 nonprofits in the community that distribute food directly to people in need. And so we work with food distributors and major manufacturers to pull that food in and then distribute it out to people that need it. So currently there's over 755,000 people that we serve every year, and the need is still there. There's over 900,000 people that are food insecure just in our region alone, and we only cover 29 counties. So Georgia has one of the highest meal gaps in the United States, and we have a lot of work to do just to close that and get meals on the table for working families.
Well, it's amazing what you folks do. And, a lot of people in our community like to get involved in community service. And, as we saw on Friday, the Hawks did a day of giving and, volunteered at numerous charities across the city. And, maybe you can explain to our folks how they can volunteer, how they can give back, what they can do to be a part of what you do.
There's lots of options that people can do to give back and be involved in what we do. Most importantly, $1 given to the food bank allows us to provide 4 meals. So it really goes a long way to serve the people in need. But there's other opportunities as well. We have over 22,000 volunteers that help us out each year. It's tangible what those volunteers do. We can't run our organization without volunteers. So there's opportunities for children as young as 8 years old. So great family opportunities and food sorting and community gardens and school supply sorting as well. So there's a lot of availability there. But
so how do they find out about these opportunities on your website?
Yep. If you just go to www.acfb.org, you can just click the volunteer tab. It's really easy to do. You can see what current opportunities are open and available and just sign up.
Well, and with the holidays fast approaching, I know that I've always wondered about this. The attention seems to be focused on the holidays every year, and I know that help is needed year-round, and that always seems to be the problem, is finding those volunteers and really generating that help year-round must be a huge challenge for you because so much is focused on Thanksgiving and Christmas. Are there any other opportunities, special opportunities available at the holidays? Do you donate food at specific food banks and missions, or I should say churches, missions, things like that, where people can specifically get involved for the holidays?
Well, we've opened up, since our volunteer opportunities book up pretty quickly, we're opening up volunteer opportunities with our agency partners at Well that garner food and product from us. So we're trying to mobilize more volunteers out in the community. But I would really encourage people not to get discouraged if they can't find opportunities. There's a huge need in January and February because it just drops off. And so really think about your community after the holidays, because the need that's there in December is still there in January.
That's right. It's a year-round issue, and you guys do such a great job, and we're very proud to be involved. I know you're very close with the No Kid Hungry campaign, which we're also a part of sponsorship, and we really appreciate what you do, and thank you for your time and for being here today. I know you've already mentioned the website and social media links. Why don't you say them again for our audience?
Yep. So we'd love for everybody to visit our website, acfb.org, and you can find us on Twitter and Facebook at ACFB.
Terrific. Thank you so much,
Thanks
Cameron.
So much for having me
being
today.
here this morning.
Appreciate it.
So anybody have any questions in between before we move on to Brenda?
I'm good. I'm just following the activity on social media and excited to hear from our next guest.
Terrific. Okay, well, we're very proud to talk to Brenda Fannin. And Brenda, we actually covered in our September issue for her French art, which has invaded Phipps Plaza. She's got a great story, and I'm going to ask her a few questions about her story, but she's the owner and gallerista of Buckhead's newest art gallery. As I mentioned before, it's called Carré d'Artistes Atlanta. My French, still good. She had a very lucrative career in the financial and technology industry, had roles at Fortune 50 companies, And she left all of that to pursue her passion in the art industry. And she believes that living and working in your passion and purpose brings success in abundance. So I love what she's done. I've actually personally been in the gallery. It's pretty fabulous. The concept is just so interesting. And Brenda, I'm going to let you explain what the concept is and how you came into this particular art gallery.
Absolutely. I have always been in search of a role that was fulfilling. I'm your typical workaholic where I work for play almost. And I've been always looking for something that would help me to fulfill happiness within. And I ended up getting into a corporate situation, and the money was great, and I was living high, and I was buying everything that I wanted to buy in life, but it just didn't make me happy. I wasn't fulfilled. So once I finally got to a place where I was able to put money in the bank and have a nice retirement nest egg, I just decided that I was going to go into art. And I found this very, very, very little, it was a very little ad in one of the magazines that I read all the time. It was like an entrepreneur magazine. And found that you could actually get help owning an art gallery where they would help to curate art. So the art for Carré d'Artistes Atlanta, and you did say it very well.
Thank you. My teachers would be happy.
It just fit my my desire to help the socioeconomical balance that we are lacking in this country, because the whole mission of Carré is so that everyone should be able to afford a piece of original artwork. And people feel that if it's original, it's too expensive. They can't, it's not attainable. They can't get it. So people buy prints and they put them in very expensive frames and make them look like they are originals. But this gallery, the least expensive amount of money you have to pay on a piece of art is only $115. Mm-hmm. And then we frame it right there for you. And it is one of a kind, meaning you'll never see it anywhere else in the world. It is original. It is not a lithograph, a serigraph, or a glissé. And it's very interesting in Atlanta. I've lived here 27 years, and I've lived in Buckhead all of that time. I'm originally from New York City, and it's really interesting that people in the Atlanta area don't really grasp the importance of original art. It's an investment, and the artists that we carry are local as well as international, and they're also very seasoned artists. So at some point in time, your artwork is going to appreciate. Mm-hmm. And what we're finding is we're having to have to do a lot of educating with the Atlanta market.
Well, I want to ask a question about
Yes.
that. And by the way, I want to backtrack to
Yes.
one thing. Brenda's love of art, this is not just something that she jumped into. In reading the story about her when she was growing up with her mother on Sunday afternoons, her routine was the same every weekend: church, brunch, and art. So they would go wandering in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So even though she went to college, got her degrees, and moved on and worked in the financial sector and the IT world, she had this great love of art from the time she was a small kid. So this is a sort of a full circle venture for you, I can imagine.
Absolutely, and you told the story correctly.
I did.
That's right.
I did. Thank you. Well, we wrote about you, so I should know the story. It's always great to see that because, especially as a woman in business myself, it's always fun for me to see that there's a sort of second stage to a career in a woman's life, a little bit later on when we're more established, doing something that we had not envisioned ourselves doing and becoming an entrepreneur. So I'm very sensitive to those sort of qualities. And And one of the things I can imagine with the price point on the art is that a large portion of your buyers are millennials, perhaps?
They are.
Younger?
And this is stepping a little bit into the future, similar to the question that you asked your prior guest. My hope and desire, and what I do plan to do, is to open up another gallery, say, in the Ponce City Market area.
Fabulous.
And
That's our new area.
That
Go
is-
for it.
I know I am. And I can't wait to get in your
cover
magazine
that.
when I do that.
Yep.
But it's sort of like we're following each other, which is a good thing. But you're absolutely right. It is amazing. I do find it very amazing that our millennials really do have the funds to buy the bigger art as well, and that's pretty cool. It's all about location. So we have inside of Phipps, there is the movie theater. We get a lot of movie theater goers who just come into the gallery. They see the beauty. They come in and look, and they shop, and they buy. I am learning as I go. I've always been in business, but I'm learning as I go that buying a piece of art is a second look buy. So you don't typically walk into a gallery, even if the art is $115, and buy at that first time. The person typically buys the second time they come into the gallery. So yes, I get a whole host of people. I get millennials, I get more seasoned people who actually see the art and see the quality of the art and just cannot believe the prices are so good.
I've personally seen it, people. So this is one gallery here in Buckhead that you all should be going to take a look at. The artwork comes from folks all over the world creating this art, and really, really great variety of pieces. And as Brenda's explained, it is extremely affordable. So I highly, highly encourage you to take that walk in Phipps. Everybody goes to Phipps. No excuse for you not to walk in. She's on the second floor at Phipps. Brenda, could you tell our audience how to find you on social media and your website?
Yes, we have a Facebook page, we have Instagram, we have Pinterest, and it's all under the same. The challenge will be spelling the name.
All right, spell it out. Spell it out for us.
Could you just say Phipps Art Shop?
No.
No. Well, you probably could, actually. If you Google Art at Phipps, you'll come up with 2 art galleries. I share Wentworth is there, and we have the latest art gallery, Carré d'Artistes Atlanta.com, and it's CARREDARTISTES Atlanta.com.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Brenda.
You're welcome.
Were you going to ask?
Being from Alabama, I think I'm still going to do Google.
Google it. Google it.
Art
Google
Galleries Phipps
Plaza and French Art Gallery Phipps Plaza, and you will find us. And
Fabulous.
It's the same name in all of our social media
Very
outlets.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Brenda,
You're
for being here with us
welcome.
today. And last but not least, we're going to talk to John Schaffner, legendary here in Buckhead, Atlanta. John, after a lifetime career in newspaper journalism, we know he's never going to retire. He's still not going to retire, even though he's retiring. In 2011, he launched Buckhead View, an online news site covering news of interest and importance to residents of Atlanta's Buckhead community. He has done such a great job with his website. John is seeing over 50,000 visitors a month to his website and does a weekly newsletter, and which is growing still. And he started his professional journalism career in the early 60s with the St. Petersburg Times, fresh from Florida State University. Then went to the Palm Beach Post, the Philadelphia Inquirer, and then joined the Atlanta Constitution as managing editor in 1977. From 82 to 2001, he was a public relations and marketing professional with his own agency. And then he moved into community journalism in 2001, worked with the Story Group, which was 5 weekly newspapers. I get that because I was in that same world before coming into magazines. And then in 2006, he was the founding editor of the Reporter newspapers, 4 biweekly newspapers, and then came to do Buckhead View at April 2011. So John, this is his last week with Buckhead View, and he and his wife are headed down to Amelia Island. I'm sure many of you have seen that already on his website. What made you found the Buckhead View in 2011?
Well, a couple of things. One of which was the fact that my boss at the time at the Reporter newspapers, he and his advisory group thought maybe I ought to move on. I was approaching the age of 70. And one of the things is they sort of thought that I was not going to be able to adapt to the new wave of journalism online.
The digital savvy thing where our 15-year-olds get it better than we do?
That's right. So anyway, number one, I wanted to prove them wrong. But number two, I also really understood that Buckhead, although it has tremendous amount of news going on here, was underserved. I had tried to serve it fairly extensively with the Buckhead Reporter.
I think we have the same philosophy because that's what we felt when we launched Simply Buckhead. No one was covering the lifestyle.
That's right. So anyway, I knew that my boss was actually trying to cut back a little bit. Didn't want to make over so many pages in the Reporter newspapers in between the different editions. So that meant cutting back on the news that would be in Buckhead news in the paper. So realizing that the North Side neighbor had not really done much of a job of covering Buckhead, and the AJC basically doesn't cover it at all. So I figured, there's an opportunity there. I was benefited from the fact that my wife had a good job, was making good money. Never made any money on buckheadview.com to speak of. But, it's been fun. It's been a real adventure. It's probably the most fun I've ever had in all of my years in journalism. And it's certainly with PR. And I always hated PR and marketing in the first place. So this is really a fun time for me.
There's a recurring theme here of second acts for 3 of us sitting at this table. I love it. What I know you're not retiring when you go to Amelia Island. Have you spoken to anybody down there about doing some work down on Amelia?
No, I haven't. But it's kind of interesting. They have a online service on Amelia. But it's not very good. In fact, during the recent hurricane, it was absolutely terrible.
Wow. I think you can take your portfolio with you and say, here's what I've done. You need my help.
That's right. And then they also have a weekly newspaper on the island in Fernandina Beach. They have, I think it's 3 weekly newspapers on the Jacksonville beaches. And those 4 newspapers are co-owned by a man by the name of Tom Wood, who was the president of Atlanta newspapers when I was managing editor at the.
So he knows your name. I think
so
you need to pick up the
I
phone. I think you need to pick up the phone.
Sounds like another newspaper roll-up conglomerate there to me, and John Schaffner's view of the beaches of Florida.
Well, yeah, and I might even send some thought pieces back here to Buckhead because in 39 years of being here in Atlanta. And 15 plus years of covering Buckhead with 3 different publications, I think I got some insights that most journalists that are in the market today just don't have about Buckhead particularly.
Well, I know that one of the questions that we wanted to talk about is what is going to happen to the Buckhead View.
Well, I'm not positive at the moment what is going to happen, but I have said that there were 2 things that I was going to do. I said this online, that if I was going to search for somebody that would take it over, somebody that I felt comfortable with taking it over, that would continue it in the vein that has been published over the past 5.5 years. And if I couldn't find that person, I'd probably just shut it down because I'd rather shut it down being successful and having a good reputation than have somebody take it over that isn't going to carry through.
I said you just call it the Buckhead View from the beach.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, there have been a number of people that have suggested that.
Well, John, just before we get to sort of wrap up, I want to just share with you how much we appreciate here in the community of Buckhead what you've been doing for our community over the last 5.5 years. I know a number of community presidents and so forth, and we're very thankful and very blessed to have you put news out there that needs to be placed.
Yes.
Well, thank you. You know, this is probably the first time I've been on this show where I think I haven't broken some story about something.
No, this was about us breaking a story about you,
This is your story.
and to mirror what Michael has said, we appreciate your long-standing service. I know you've been honored by the Buckhead Business Association for your work here, and we want you to know how much we appreciate you being here as well.
And one of the things
The crowd goes wild, yeah.
Yep, crowd goes wild. We're so honored that we were able to have John on the show today. Any parting thoughts about the future of Buckhead?
Well, let me just also say that one of the parties I am talking to is Joanne and her organization. We've been in discussion the last few days anyway, and
that is breaking news. We're hoping to work something out this week.
We haven't come to a decision, an agreement yet, but hopefully we will be able to come to some agreement. I do think it would be a tremendous adjunct to the work that she's doing with the magazines. It's a hard news area, and obviously she would have more success probably in getting advertising into Buckhead View than I did, since I'm not very good at selling ads and never have been. But I'm an editorial guy through and through. But anyway, to answer your question, I do think there's going to be a tremendous amount of changes going on in Buckhead. And I think you need to watch very closely because it's going to affect not only businesses, it's going to affect residents as well. And I'll just name, obviously everybody right now is excited about the concept of this park in the center of the business district of Buckhead. But there are some people that are not so excited. One of them being Simon Properties, who is not in favor of it at all. There are 2 or 3 members of the board of directors of Buckhead CID that are not totally behind it, and she's one of them. And she actually brought up some very good points at a recent meeting of Buckhead CID, and one of which was she said that the CID ought to do a referendum of all of their shareholders, the people that pay in, because every commercial business within the district of Buckhead pays an extra $3 million tax every year to do improvements in the business district of Buckhead, and a lot of those people never have any say in what this money's spent for. And she thinks with a $250 million to $300 million park project, they all ought to have some sort of voice on that.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I will say is that's likely to come out of this is something totally new, and that is a special tax district in Buckhead, and which is not just going to include businesses. It will include residences within a 2-mile, 3-mile area around the park, which is an awful lot of residences. And I think a lot of these residential people have no idea how that may affect their taxes on their properties. So,
well, stay tuned to the View.
Yes, stay tuned to the Buckhead View. We hope that John will be doing some more writing in this area, even though he might not be physically here. As you said, Buckhead View from the beach.
I'm telling you, yeah. And you can reach John at just johnatthebeach.com. Yeah.
Yes, well...
Well, I'll still have my personal email address.
Yes. And to continue in seeing the news, it is buckheadview.com. Again, John, thank you for being with us, and thank you for all your years of service here in Buckhead. I know it must be bittersweet for you to be leaving. But
it was not... It was more my wife's decision that we ought to go, and
you just said yes, dear.
Well,
I like him.
Well, like I said, she makes all the money.
So she sold you on the idea, of moving to the island, yeah.
Well, thank you so much to our guests today: Cameron Turner from Atlanta Community Food Bank, Brenda Fannin from Carré d'Artistes Atlanta, and John Schaffner from the Buckhead View.
Well, thank you.
And just in closing, real quick, Joanne, so what's next on the horizon for Simply Buckhead?
Well, we have a very exciting cover shoot today. Our November-December issue is Hollywood in Buckhead. It's going to be a great cover story, and 17th South is doing very well. well, and we're doing a great food issue in that market. And lots on the horizon for 2017. So stay tuned and keep a lookout for us on simplybuckhead.com.
All right, will do. And once again, thanks for all our guests being here. We'll see you on the next episode of the Buckhead Business Show.
Thank you for joining us and our guests on the Pro Business Channel.